What's up guys, Gherkin here. I've been away for a few days, sorry I've been a bit busy. I kind of made that weapon video, then disappeared. But I have plenty to be getting on with. A good friend of mine who's coincidentally in this video has been farming legendary weapons like there's no tomorrow, so I've got a lot of those to be getting on with. I'm going to start grouping them though. If I did an individual video on each individual weapon, it would take me about a century to get through them. But a lot of legendary snipers have been dropping, so maybe I'll do a legendary sniper video. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. Master G. Where did he come from? Who is he? Why is he called Master G? All of these questions and more will not be answered in this video. But we are going to go over how to kill him. And like the other raid bosses, the tactic is going to be the same as of level 61. Unless you were one of the people who killed one worm or got him to absorb one worm and then hid behind the rock at the beginning, I don't think this is going to work now because the elemental damage is significantly more. I don't think you can outlast him. So you're going to have to man up and do it as nature intended. So, the basic tactic is a worm is going to pop up, you're going to kill the worm as quickly as possible, like whack-a-mole, and once the worm is dead, it'll leave a hole in the ground that starts spewing acid. The longer you leave the hole, the further the acid spreads, and you will eventually start taking permanent elemental damage. To prevent this from happening, you need to draw Master G onto the hole as quickly as possible to soak up the acid. The nearer he is to the centre, the quicker and further it will soak up, and if he's within about 2 or 3 metres of the centre, by the time it withdraws all the way, he will absorb it completely. The acid will stop spewing from that hole and he would gain a permanent damage debuff. The rest of the fight is rinse and repeat of this tactic, and the remaining tips and tactics simply revolve around the best ways to get him onto the wormhole as quickly as possible after the worm is dead, and the best ways to keep him on there long enough that he absorbs the acid while also not dying. So here's the first big thing you need to make sure of. Everyone in the party needs to make sure they know who is drawing his aggro. He generally picks one person at a time to run at very purposefully, and that person ideally needs to make sure they are circling the current worm so that it's directly between them and G. That way, as soon as the worm is killed, preferably by everyone else since they're not going to be under so much pressure, G will immediately absorb the acid. Because it won't have spread anywhere. A lot of this video is what to do if you can't get him to absorb it immediately. Because G barely ever goes perfectly smooth, but if you're organised and the aggro drawer manages to pull this off well, then you're already set. Although this does bring me to a point about the worms. They're now 8 levels ahead of you, and a direct hit will take off a lot of health. And they lead their targets perfectly. If you're circling one, trying to keep G close to it, and it decides to go for you as well, you'll need to stop or change direction or jump just as it spits its acid, or it will nail you directly every single time. And that's one situation where things start to go a bit awry, and this is going to be my next big tip. Speed boosts. Now, if you're the Gunzerker, this is simple. You just need points in busts that can't slow down. You may be able to get by on insight, but it requires you to take damage to work, so it's a little bit awkward. But I'm going to say this now, if you have a really good speed boost and you can kill the worms quickly, as long as G is nearby, you're essentially set on this run already. If you look back to the beginning of the video, you'll see me watching Spartan as the commando as he runs really fast, and this is an exploit you can do using the interfacer shotgun, which is hard to get, or the greed pistol that you will have gotten from Scarlet after killing Roscoe during the Pirate DLC. There are no movement penalties while aiming down sights with these guns, and if you have 5 points in expertise as the commander, you will be able to move at 40% more than your maximum sprinting speed. With the Siren, I think you can get movement speed upon taking a kill, so you could count that as the worm if you're doing this solo. Not sure about Zero, but the reason this is good is because the best way to keep him on a hole, especially if it's spread further than you would want and he needs to be on there for a few seconds, is not to just stand on one side and let him run straight over it towards you. Because if you do this, what generally happens is he doesn't spend long enough time on top of it and he just runs straight over it onto you, and you end up having to run straight past him, jump over the hole and repeat it, and the same thing keeps happening. And you're in massive danger of absorbing the acid yourself. I forgot to mention this, if you're the last one on the hole when the acid fully recedes, then you will take on the acid instead. You'll get a little syringe icon above your experience bar, and at this level that's probably game over. That permanent damage is hard to handle. But what you actually want to do is circle the hole while he's standing on it or near it, and a better demonstration of this is just what you'll see us doing in the video. You'll see us doing this quite a lot. But with that extra speed, you can run in a really wide arc that you're not in danger of taking the acid yourself. But it means he will essentially just be running on a spot, just running in a circle after you, which keeps him directly on the hole for as long as you need. And in fact, the perfect circuit means you won't actually be able to see him while you're running, but you just need to keep running and listen out for that noise, which means he's taking on the acid. Kind of a squelching noise. If you don't know what I mean, just keep an eye on the video. We definitely do it a lot during this, and we had 2 runs on this and it didn't go well. And then as soon as we both had that speed boost, whoever was drawing aggro could just run a circuit around the hole, and it worked. First time, it was so much easier. Can't stress that enough. It doesn't sound useful, but trust me, it is really useful in this fight. Especially if he's right behind you just as you kill the worm. It can be very hard to keep him on the hole and yourself off of it because he runs at the same speed as you if you don't have a speed boost. But that brings me on to what to do if things start to go a little bit tits up, which certainly happens to us each time we do a run on G, because in practice it's tricky to get him directly onto the hole every time without fail just as the worm dies. The best thing I can suggest are singularity grenades. Everyone in your party, fully stocked singularity grenades. G reacts to things in the same way as a normal enemy does, because he's pretty flimsy. Singularity grenades aimed straight onto the wormhole while he's in range will draw him straight onto it. It also gives whoever is drawing aggro to get into a kind of ideal position to make sure he stays on the hole long enough to soak up the rest of the acid. Everyone in the party, fully stocked singularity grenades, preferably longbow for accuracy, but as long as you can get them straight onto the hole, then it will get you out a lot of bad situations. I can't stress that enough. You can use them as often as you would to get them on there as you would just doing it normally, especially with your combined grenade count. You're going to have a lot of chances to do that. They're also a big one because occasionally G will stop running and just crouch to use his rocket launcher. If he's a distance from the hole when this happens, you'll start getting a massive acid spread. You won't be able to get him to start running again. Singularity draws him out of his crouch. So look out if he starts crouching and you need to get him onto one of those holes, just singularity him. Communicate as well. Don't all throw one at once, otherwise he gets drawn in some weird direction. Just call out if you can use one. In the same vein, a siren with a convergence skill, which kind of pulls everything in when you phase lock something. She phase locks a worm just before it dies with some good timing. That draws G right onto where the worm was just as it dies and has a chance of making him absorb it instantly. Obviously you need to communicate pretty well with that one. Other last-ditch efforts you can use, Gunzerker Melee Override. That has a good knockback effect. You can punch him back onto the hole if he runs off of it too quickly. I think one of Zero's melees has a knockback effect as well. Axton's turrets have a good chance of drawing aggro, so throwing one straight onto a wormhole might draw them straight to it. Without the failing shield, might be more effective in this case, because you'll be able to get closer to it. Gunzerker specific one, if you're well equipped to make him absorb the acid and you're kind of the designated acid drawer, and you've got that speed boost, the health regen and all that kind of thing, and everyone else is concentrating more on the worms, got a siren maybe helping you res, all that kind of stuff. But he keeps getting aggro by someone else in your party who isn't equipped to do this. Put a point into Come At Me Bro. It's the skill at the bottom of your brawn tree, and it allows you to flip him off while you're in Gunzerk, and it will instantly switch his aggro to you. We did this for our runs on level 61. It worked amazingly. He kept getting aggro from Siren and our Assassin. But if you have Come At Me Bro, you give him the middle finger and he very reliably, every time actually we did it, he gets drawn straight back to the Gunzerker. It can definitely prove very useful poke to have in this fight if you're the one who's kind of equipped best to do that. One last thing to mention, at 25% health or so, he drops his little purple shield. As far as I've observed, this stops you from taking any elemental damage. So if someone in your party is taking on one of the acid pits themselves, this is a good place for them to chill out if the rest of the team is okay to finish off the rest of the run. But they can still shoot out the shield as well to help kill worms or whatever. Apparently it also gives you very good health regen, although I haven't tested this myself. But anyway, in summary, know who he has aggro on, circle the pit long enough for him to absorb the acid, just keep him close to each worm which comes out. The worms will spawn like quite near you each time. Just work within a small area and use your singularities if you're out of position to get him there. We need to get it done before the next worm comes out. I did forget to mention this, the worms are on a timer and there's no limit to their number, so you need to kill them quickly and get them to absorb it quickly. And speed boosts are a big underappreciated biggie in this one. One last thing to mention, we saved all our ammo for the worms and we just about made it through. When his shield comes off, he apparently takes damage as normal, but we've never bothered shooting him. We just save it for the worms. The problem is, if you waste all your ammo shooting him and it doesn't take his health down far enough, you're going to end up overrun by worms and you're going to end up screwing yourself over. I would highly recommend just getting the worm technique down. And just save your ammo for them. I may be wrong. Feel free to leave a comment if you actually shoot him as soon as his shield's down and have a lot more luck and maybe you can kill him very quickly. But personally, we've never really tried it. We've always just saved it for the worms and that's worked the best. We did this run just to try and get the Ahab rocket launcher, incidentally, and it dropped first try, thank God. It's quite a fun little rocket launcher. It's got 18 million damage over power level 8. Quite beastie. Anyway, hope this has been kind of useful. I'll try and get a weapon video out soon, and I will see you then.
You defeated the thing! This is the best day of my entire life. Or anyone else's. You're just that cool.